Hi, everybody. This is Tana Meyer with OCEANetwork, and I'm here with Connie Albers. She is one of our fantastic speakers in the conference this year. And, it would be wonderful if we were in person, but this is next best, and we're just really thankful that you've joined us. So thank you for joining us here today.
Hi, everyone.
So I'm going to let Connie introduce herself a little bit, but I'm excited because I actually just got your book in the mail. So I'm excited to be reading it because I have a 12-year-old who's already kind of, a teenager. So it'll be good to start digging into what you've prepared in that book and kind of look ahead into these teenage years. So thank you for joining us. And anybody who's watching, if you have any questions for Connie, feel free to chime in. If you're watching the replay later, you can ask a question there as well, and we'll make sure we, connect with her and get an answer for you. So feel free to ask questions, and I did collect some ahead of time. So we're going to chat about that. But first, Connie, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about you and your resources, that would be great.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. If you're watching on the replay, I love what Tana said. Definitely leave questions and we'll come back and answer those. That helps us to know how we can better serve you. I am a mama of 5. My children have all grown up. It does happen quickly. It doesn't seem like it when you're in the middle of it, but you blink and you're turning the tassel of your last child. We homeschooled from kindergarten all the way through to high school. I mean, actually, till they graduated, and they all went on to college. They've graduated from college. They have the same alma mater, and we're loving life. We're doing life together, which was one of the goals that our family had when we first set out in homeschooling. It was like we wanted to build a family that loved doing life together, and that is actually what we're doing. So my children, I have 5 children in 7 years. When I started homeschooling, I was very much career focused. I was working as a spokesperson, and I was in the entertainment, and then I switched over to the beauty industry. I loved what I did, but then I started having children, and I pivoted and started putting my uh, background of PR, marketing, and communication. I started putting that into shaping, molding, and fashioning the homeschool movement. So I have been in the homeschool movement now for 30 years. I actually homeschooled for 21 years. It's hard to believe. Decades. That sounds so strange. But it's awesome. And I love being able to turn around now and pour back in. A lot of lessons I learned the hard way, a lot of things that I love to be able to share that gives a perspective as you're in the middle of the trenches that I would love to have had somebody be able to share with me, maybe to talk me off the ledge a few times or not to be so afraid or not to be anxiety ridden. But we live in opposite of America than you do. I live in Orlando, Florida, and it's a great thing. As Tana said, I am the author of Parenting Beyond the Rules, Raising Teens with Confidence and Joy. And that's funny how that story came to be. It was not something some people just kind of think, oh, I want to write. I'm a writer or I want to write. And that's not my story. We'll have to share that another time. But this was a project God just whispered in my ear and said, I want you to do this. And he brought it to fruition. And it's been out for a year now. So it's pretty exciting the way God's just taken it and really helped a lot of families, thousands of families. I don't know what the whole number is, but I know a lot.
That's fantastic. And I like that it includes the words confidence and joy. Like as a homeschool mom who's in the middle of those years, that's what we want. And as new homeschoolers too, we want to give them that confidence and joy.
Yeah, it's really both ways. So raising teens with confidence and joy could be helping moms have the confidence and joy to raise those teens, but it's also to raise
Oh
those
yeah.
teens so that they step into the next season of their life with confidence and joy. And it's kind of the whole picture of what we really want when we turn that tassel and we're not actually having to parent teenagers anymore. We're in a different role, just a different season and a new transition.
I'm curious to hear, for those of you guys who are watching right now live or on the replay, who is parenting teens right now or like myself about to start parenting teens, and what questions you have for Connie. I know I have 1,000, but we'll just start with a couple.
Yeah, so if you are, I mean, I'll also say if you are parenting teens and tweens, what are their ages? Like Tana said, yours is 12, and I mean, what are your kids' ages? And I would love to know what you're struggling with. Life changed in 3 months,
Hmm.
and the conversation that we're going to have today is different than what we would have talked about in March, because life changed. Your family dynamics have changed. The culture has changed. Expectations have changed. And though we weren't thrown into schooling at home, we weren't thrown into pandemic schooling, we were already used to the rhythm and routine. But
Hmm.
what we've seen happen in our culture is a twist, a turn, a jar, a sudden pivot. What was right is wrong. What is wrong is right. Nothing makes sense. Some words that were fine to speak in March are now can cost you your job. It can cause you to get, I think we're on social media, so you guys know, you say one wrong word on social media and you'll have 1,500 people or several thousand challenge you or disagree, or it's a very polarizing. And I hope as we talk about some of this, Tanya, we'll be able to unpack what I mean by that.
Yeah, well, I know that that's true in our family. Logistically, not a lot changed when everything shut down because we were a homeschool family, but some things changed, enough changed to throw us off kilter. And then, like you said, we've had a lot of really serious conversations with our kids in these past couple months, just about all the different things happening. So,
Hmm.
it's definitely been a parenting heavy season.
Yeah. I mean, mom's going through her own set of emotions, her own anxiety, her own whatever was tolerable or barely tolerable. It has now become intolerable. A lot of cracks and foundations in our relationships are being exposed more, whether it's with a child or with our spouse, or um, worry, anxiety about how long are things going to be like this? How are our kids processing what's going on? You said you had a lot of deep, heavy conversations, and we will be for quite a while. And I
Hmm.
think that's one of the biggest changes we're going to be seeing is how do we keep the heart of our teen in our world right now, in our culture right now? That's the ominous, most important thing we need to be doing right now.
So, do you feel like there's a lot more stress just in the teens right now because of all of the changes happening, and how should parents handle that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer is yes. Teens are very social. And I kind of giggle when people would talk about our homeschoolers that were just like home doing nothing. I
Yeah.
mean, I've talked to so many homeschool parents. They are happy they're home because they're finally getting stuff done. They're getting those projects finished. They're not having to run around all over the place to all the different things that they did that kept them busy. But it's interesting because we're social, we're relational. God designed us to be relational, first with the Lord and then with each other. And to be honest with you, even though we are homeschooling and we're used to being around our kids a lot, that's kind of common for us.
Mhm.
They're not used to being isolated from their friends. And I know for a good part of the last 3 months, for a good part of that time, parents were saying, no, you can't go to co-op, you can't go to activities we were doing. No, basketball season was canceled, or baseball was canceled, or all the things that were canceled, graduations, end of year parties,
Mm.
SATs. Now the kids are celebrating the SATs, but um, but all of that disruption, coupled with the fact that your kids can't get with their friends, it's harder on them than parents often realize. We're designed to have those connections. And I know sometimes we don't feel like our kids' connections with their friends are as deep or substantive, maybe, as our friendships are, but they're very real, they're very personal. They're the peer group. They help them get through the day, the people that they can just chit chat with or have deep conversations with. and nobody knows like what's happening or who to believe or what's really going on. And I've had a lot of parents, oh, probably hundreds of parents, reach out with their teens being angry at them because the kids don't know what to do. They don't know how to process it. You can't say to them, on July 1st, sweetie, things are going to be back to normal. Depending on where you live, because you probably
Hmm.
have people, I know you're in Oregon and on the Pacific Coast, depending on what state you live in, you have night and day difference about how you're living life.
Hmm.
um, and your kids, because you have to be the parent right now. I mean, you have to be the parent. There are rules, there are ordinances, there are laws, there are things that we want our children to follow and obey because we want to be civically responsible. We want our kids to be thinking about other people. We may not agree with everything, and there's this friction going on. And what kids are doing is they're getting angry at their parents because their parents are towing the line and saying, no, you can't go to church youth group. No, you can't go to co-op. No, you can't go play, basketball at the park. Again, depending on where you are, depends on what your kids have been allowed to do. That has created a lot of conflict within homes. Now, may not be happening in your home, but what I want to encourage you to do is dive deep and go and dig around a little bit into how your teens are processing everything. And that starts with really being intentional about listening. I know this wasn't one of our questions, but it's something that is just rising to the surface over and over and over again. Parents, we've got to be listening. We've got to be willing and able to listen to learn, listen to resolve conflict, and listen so that we can help guide them as they also speak to their friends about what's going on. It's this ripple effect. As we help our kids actually end up helping others. And then when they start to face struggles as an adult like we are, I mean, honestly, this is the first time we are dealing with something like this. This is not like the
Hmm.
08, 09 housing recession. This is something we've not experienced, and we're not old enough to have lived in the Spanish flu time. We've got the social media, and we'll talk about that. But really be intentional about listening and asking questions, and ask questions not with the intention to fix or solve or tell them how to think about what's going on. Ask them questions and listen so you can hear what the stirrings are with them. Do they agree with what's going on? Are they struggling with what's going on? Are they struggling with how you're processing it? Because you're not processing it like their best friend's parents are processing it. And you might be so strict, or you might be too lenient, or whatever it is. But we have to have those conversations with our teens now more than ever because they're listening to someone, and those someones are out there trying to shape and influence your child away from you, and
So
they're
I
unapologetic about it.
So what kinds of questions? I'm curious about details. What
Yeah,
kinds of questions? And when you said don't ask those questions with the intent to instruct, I'm like, oh, that will be hard.
it is
So what
hard.
questions do you ask and what do you say in return while they're talking to let them know that you're processing what they're saying, but not trying to, tell them what to think about it?
It's funny. Right before we hopped on this call, I had my two daughters and one of my daughter-in-laws over, and I made this special lunch. It was my treat to them. I was honoring them today to come over to the house and just have lunch. And so I had the table up pretty, all set, and they showed up and they're like, "Oh, we didn't realize it was so fancy." But I wanted to listen to them talk over easy conversation, lightheartedness, of what are they experiencing. So what I'm telling you is what I'm actually still doing with my adult children. So the questions you ask is, I always start with like their friends. So how, like to, whatever their best friends names are, I'll ask them, so how is so and so doing with all of this? It's
Hmm.
a disarming question. And why? Because you're not asking them how they're doing. You're asking about their friend. What does that communicate to your teen? It communicates that you're interested in people that they care about. And they feel safe to say, well, they're not doing anything. They're just playing video games all day long, or, they're just kind of normal. Everything is, they're, stocking up on toilet paper or whatever it is that they're doing. And then say, really, I'm so glad. And after they've told that to you, oh yeah, they're doing this or they're doing that, or they're taking the summer off. Oh, they're taking the summer off? And then just pause. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they're taking the summer off and they're gonna da 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 da. Oh, well, that ought to be fun. Do you like stuff like that? And then they're able, and then you're asking these questions about people they care about, and you indirectly come back to, do you struggle with some of, if they're telling you what they're struggling with, do you struggle with some of that sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
And then just be quiet. And do it in a casual way. You don't have to sit down and have direct eye contact. Oftentimes, if your teen's
Mm-hmm.
struggling with something, they don't want to have intense eye contact because they can just kind of feel that penetrating stare right into their soul, and they don't want that. But you just ask those questions, while you're doing the dishes, while you're doing laundry, or at night when the lights are kind of dim and they're in the bed. They can't see your facial reaction. There's something about having some filter so that they can start to open up. When you do start asking questions, don't overreact. So when I say listen to learn, when you're listening to learn, you're in a gathering, fact-finding information. And when they tell you something, don't tell them the 3 steps. You can solve that problem because you're smart, you're their mom, you've been solving problems for a long time, but they need to learn how to do that. So you want to not tell them how to solve it, follow up with, that's interesting. So what will you do with that? What do you think about those feelings? How is that causing you to process what's happening right now? Does it make you struggle? And then every one of those questions takes them a step further into giving you more information so that you can learn what's going on with them. Then you follow up with, I understand. How can I pray for you? You've caught them off guard. You're unpredictable at this moment because your children, especially your teenagers, they already know what you believe, why you believe it. Most of the time, they even know God's word because you've been pouring it into them for so long.
Right.
And they know how you're going to answer it. They know that you're going to give them this 4-step plan and you're going to solve the problem. They don't want their problem solved. They want a listening ear that's going to have empathy and compassion, that's going to affirm that you understand. Oh, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Your teens have to know that they have been heard and that they have been affirmed. So when you're talking to them, you say those words, oh, I hear what you're saying. That's got to be hard. Yeah, it is hard. Well, what do you do when that happens? Well, sometimes I just get mad in my bedroom, and sometimes I'm like, oh, whatever, there's nothing I can do. Oh, yeah. So sometimes you're just like, no big deal. It's going to blow past, or sometimes you get angry and you just go in your room. And when that happens, what do you do in your room? Do you like punch the pillow, or, just kind of, again, every step you're leading them to kind of giving you a little bit more information of what's going on in their heart. And then you kind of wrap it back up with, how can I be praying for you? If you
Mm-hmm.
want to talk about this again, let me know. I will be praying for you. And I'm always here if you want to talk, because I know you're processing a lot. You're trying to grow from that child you were many years ago to the adult you're becoming. And you have to take all of this in and process it. And it can be a lot, and it can be very overwhelming, but I'm always here for you. You know that, right? Did you notice, all of you, if I could, I wish I could see all of your faces, but Tani, when I was saying that, I was smiling and I was nodding my head yes. And you know what you were doing? You were
No.
nodding your head yes. Why? Because subconsciously, you're just bringing them in. And when you start doing this, and you're looking and you're talking to them and you're letting them know you're there for you and that you heard what they say and that you affirm those feelings of anxiety or frustration because they want their life back to normal. And you're
Mm-hmm.
sitting there and you affirm those real valid feelings. And you're sitting there and you're doing this. And you go, okay, I'm here for you, okay? It's almost irresistible for them not to say, okay, thanks, mom.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something that happens when we have that smile, when we are affirming them and we're nodding our head yes, and we make that subtle pause that makes our kid feel like she gets me. She understands. When we immediately go into fix it mode, what ends up happening is the walls go up. I'm fine. And then, they'll start to tell you something, and 2 seconds later, they're like, oh man, here she goes. Time to just shut up because mom's just, I'm not going to go there. I can't really trust her or dad. I can't really say what's going on because in their mind, they're just waiting for me to take a breath so they can jump in and fix my problem.
Mm.
So we want to listen to learn, and we also want to listen to resolve conflict. Listening to resolve conflict, I covered that a little bit in what I was saying, is with the mindset of as you help them, as you are listening to help resolve the conflict, whether it's between you or a conflict they're having with somebody else, or just a conflict in general with, we've at the time of this um, live, obviously there's protests happening. There's daily, you go to bed one night and you wake up the next morning and there's a new something that, something's happened that's,
Right.
catastrophic. And every day is different. Well, that's really hard for a kid because
Mm-hmm.
they may like adventure, but disruption is hard. And it's hard on everyone. So as you are listening to resolve conflict, be thinking about you're helping them learn how they're going to resolve conflict in experiences that they have in the future. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
two-part to that listening to resolve conflict. And those are really important. Um, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. It was helpful. I always like to go through the actual conversation because it helps me in the moment to be able to kind of fall into that instead of my typical patterns, which is like, well, you need to do this, this, and this.
Yeah. And I think about that. Can you imagine if our teenager came up to us and said, basically told us how to fix our problem? Hey, mom,
Be like, oh,
I have
really?
3 steps that would make you a way better mom. I don't think we would gravitate to that very well. We might look at them and go, "Oh, really? Tell me about it." But we wouldn't be as open as we think. And so as our kids grow from child to adult and they enter that transition period, the reality is you're helping them learn to accept freedom, to get more freedom, to make wiser decisions, to handle more responsibility. And every one of your children is going to have that process take place at a different time. And when they realize that we're listening to them, we're hearing what they're saying, whether they feel we've been too strict or we're, not, it's not very often they say we're very lenient. Most of the
Mhm.
time they're saying, can we just be done with school? Or, can we just go take a break or something? But when they realize that we are paying attention and that we are listening. And I would also add, in our listening, pay attention to the body language. I call that the silent language because it speaks really loud. I mean, you guys all know. I wish I'd stand up. Yeah. We know exactly what our kids are communicating to us, and it's not happy, positive. It's, hey, I've heard it before, mom, and I don't want to hear it again. Or we see the eye roll, or we see this.
Yeah.
Well, they're not really real open to any of our suggestions. They might be feeling a little defeated. And so we want to be a student of our child. And we have been for the most part because we live with them and we homeschool them. But the body language, especially as we are going through a national disruption, is so important because you will learn valuable insights into how they're processing all that's going on. The slumped shoulders, the changes in personality, the moodiness that might come about when you put them to bed happy and they wake up the next morning and they're grumpy, and you're like, where did my child go back and find that child because something happened in the middle of the night. Because your children are are not only processing what's happening and the disruption, but they also have this thing called hormones that are going on inside of them, which they can't control. So there's elements that they can't control. There's elements that they can control. And as a mom and a dad, you have the opportunity to be a student, pay attention, take notes. You don't need to say anything, but take notes. And then at the appropriate time, when you can tell they're in a better place, then you can kind of enter that conversation with them. Hey, I've noticed that you seem to be a little more irritated lately. Are you struggling? Is school getting to you? Do we have the news on too much? I'm just noticing a couple of things. You want to talk about it? Do you see how my conversation just right there was disarming? It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, I'm paying.
Oh, looks like we lost Connie. Let me see if I can get her back on. I hope that was helpful for you guys. It was for me. Let's see if I can have her join us again. Oh, there you are. Yeah. Let me get you on the, hold on. Oh, there you are.
Hello. But if you noticed, I'm letting them know that I'm paying attention. I'm
Mm-hmm.
aware of things that they might not even be noticing. Like they may not even realize they're even slightly depressed or just not themselves. And they just kind of sit like that, or they're not as talkative, or maybe they're overly talkative, or maybe they're a little more critical than they normally were. When you pause just to say, I've noticed this the other day, not that minute, because it's not going to work in that minute. The
Mm-hmm.
other day when I called you for supper, or I asked you to take out the trash, or one of the things that maybe is not normally a problem, but it was a problem that day. I noticed that about you. Is everything okay? Did something happen that day that just kind of threw you uh, off your game a little bit? I'm not accusing them. I'm not calling them out. I'm just making them aware. I'm watching. I've noticed this. And it can be hard right now. If you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but just know I can see some changes that are happening in you. And it's okay. Let's talk about it because that'll help you. And, always with that intention of I'm pursuing you, I'm pursuing that relationship with you. I am your greatest cheerleader, not your friends, not anybody else. They're all important and they have their place in your child's life. But mom and dad, you're their greatest cheerleader and they need to know that. And part of that is just by asking the right questions, listening to learn, paying attention to the body language, and knowing when it's okay to enter into the space and invite them to go a little deeper.
So my question is, when do you, I hear what you're saying about listening and engaging in this casual conversation, but I'm assuming that at some point instruction and correction will still be necessary.
Oh yeah.
So when do you know that it's an appropriate time to go, no, this is not what we're doing right now, or whatever?
Yeah, I think that when we were writing the book, Parenting Beyond the Rules, people first thought, oh, so that means you're throwing out the rule book? I'm like, no, no. But here's the deal. You have raised your children up to this point, whatever age that they are. They know what the boundaries are. We have set the rules, the limits, and the boundaries. Now, if it's a matter of personal safety or family safety or obeying the law, those are non-negotiables. If you're not going to drive the car until you have your driver's license. You're not, that's the law, right? That's like a
Mm-hmm.
non-negotiable. But when they get their driver's license, see, that's something you have established. That's the rules for your family. And that may be when you get in Florida, you can get your permit at 15. Well, another family may say, no, 15 is just way too young. You have no idea. You are just oblivious. You couldn't find your way home from your neighbor's house. Um, and so we want to be really clear. The rules, the limits, and the boundaries that you establish that are right for your family, that are right for your family values, that you believe are, and everybody's are a little bit different, right? Even amongst Christians, they'll have varying what's okay and what's not okay, what music is okay, what television shows are okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you move past that? Well, it starts by realizing that mom and dad have set the rules, the limits, and the boundary. Your child needed those to guide them to this point. As your child continues to grow and they start pushing back on some of those rules, Mom, why do I have to have the list on the refrigerator? You did that when I was 10. I know what my chore chart is. And you're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, that's an opportunity for you to say to your child, oh, does having the chore chart on the fridge, does that make you feel like you're a little kid? Yeah, mom, it makes me feel like I'm a little kid. Well, what would you propose? Let's talk about it. And let them talk about it. And then say, so what I'm hearing you say is that you don't want the list, that you believe at this point you've shown yourself to be faithful, that you can just do them by a set date. So by Friday, you don't need me to remind you, you don't need reminders or checklists. You're just going to get your work done so that we can go enjoy Saturday. Yes, that's right, mom. I'm grown up. And and then comes Friday. Well, there has to be a level of inspection because kids don't do what we expect, they do what we inspect. And that's a very important thing to remember. So while that piece of paper with a checklist works great for some kids because they get distracted, and it's just a good reminder, it's not an affront to them. They just feel like, oh, thanks for the cheat sheet, mom. I needed that. Others may, as they're growing, they will feel like you're being treated like a child. So you want to say, that's fine, here it is. But then on Friday, there's a day of accountability. Did you get the things that you know you're supposed to do done? Yes or no? Well, well, I did some of them. Well, oh, okay, what did you do? Don't start with what didn't you do? Oh, so what did you do? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
great. Well, what happened to the others? Oh, I got behind in school, or I got distracted, or blah, 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 and give them a chance to explain. I understand. Here's the deal. See, our family runs as a team, and when one part of our team isn't doing their part, it causes all of us to either slow down or stumble or stop. And I know you don't want that. I know you don't want our family to have to be delayed because you get distracted, right? Right, mom. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give you another week because I really believe you want to be treated like a doll. I really believe that. Now here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try it again, and the next Friday, I'm going to give you an opportunity to show me the freedom that you're asking for. You're able to handle the responsibility of not having a checklist. Okay? Just be quiet, okay? Okay, mom. Great. Next Friday, start the conversation again. Hey, what'd you get done this week? Oh, mom, I did better. I got 4 things done. Oh, great. What about the other 2? What happened there? Oh, I forgot. Okay. See that's kind of why we have a cheat sheet on the fridge, which is where we used to have ours. It's to help you remember because, sweetie, life can get busy and you can get distracted. It happens to me. That's why mom has a planner. That's why mom uses her phone because, we can get busy and we can get forgetful. But again, remember, we're a team and you have your part and I have my part. Now, you wouldn't appreciate very much if I forgot to go grocery shopping. That could be a little frustrating for you if there was no food to eat, right? I get it, mom. They understand really quick when you can apply it to a literal, you do a job, your husband, if you're married, has a job, if you have work to do, if siblings have jobs to do, they can start to see that and then bring them back to this and remind them of these points. Listen, we are a family. We're doing life together. Everyone will do what do work that is commensurate with their ability, meaning the older kids are going to be doing more work than the younger children. It's just the way it's going to work. But those older kids are going to grow up and move out, and then they're going to have all of it. And that's how you talk to them about it. Now, after week 3, yeah, I give them 3 weeks because that's 21 days, right? Give them 3 weeks. I'm like, I want to be able to do this for you, but this is what we're going to have to do. I'm going to put the chart for you back up on the fridge as a reminder. And then when you think you're ready to try again, come to me and let's talk about it. And then we'll try again. But wait till you think you're really ready. Okay? And that's how we can diffuse some of that. So when we make the rules, the limits, and we establish those rules, limits, and boundaries, we're able to adjust as long as it's not a violation of God's word, or it's not a violation of our family values. We're not hurting or harming ourselves or others. We're not acting irresponsible. We have the freedom to what I call adjust. As your child starts to change, we adjust. And sometimes parents will think, but Connie, wait a minute. Why do I have to be the one adjusting? Well, do you want your kid to stay 10 years old forever and act like a 10? No, you want them to grow up. So as they grow up, they start assuming more responsibility. They start having their own thoughts. And you want to kind of grow together. And as they grow and you adjust, it doesn't mean you're being wishy-washy. It doesn't mean that you've somehow moved the goalpost. No, the goalpost is still there. It's how they're going to get there. That is what we consider, is what we have to think about. Your responsible, compliant child is going to get freedoms at a much younger age. They're going to get to do things that some of the other kids don't get to do because they're highly capable. They are very responsible. They want to please mom and dad. They don't want to get in trouble. They're rule followers. But you may have another child or two or three that those suggestions that you've laid out, those limits, those borders, um, that is what they need to be able to stay in their lane, because those are just suggestions. Those are the ones that you have to constantly be talking to of why, by how you're doing this, by what you're doing, and why you're doing it. When your kids know why you've established these rules, why you've placed these limits, why you have curfews, why no televisions are in the bedroom, or why we're not going to let the cell phones be in the bedroom. When we have that happen, our children it's easy for us to enter that conversation of, when you grow and you mature and you want more freedom, which I would love to give you, freedom is given when you can accept the responsibility of the freedom. If you can't handle the responsibility, that's okay. We will just step back a little bit. We'll keep going what we were doing until you feel like you're ready to accept the responsibility. All of a sudden, you're not this bad person. You're getting the exact same thing, but you're doing it in a way that says, we're doing this together. Now, more directly to your question about what do you do when, you know, you've done all those nice things and they're still saying, no, I'm going to sneak the phone in my room when you go to bed at night. I'm going to change the passwords on the computer because I can do it in 6 seconds. And I'm going to chat with my friends on social media, or I'm going to do all these other things, or I'm not going to be completely honest with you. And I'm only going to partially do what you've asked me to do. Those are what I call your passive children that want their way. They just want their way, and they're willing to see, is the trouble they're going to get in worth the fun they're going to have to do what they want to do. So it's a matter of the will. It's a matter of submitting to authority, you being the authority and God being the authority, um, and helping them understand. Those are the children that you still talk to them the same way, but you just keep reminding them, I want to give that freedom to you. You're not showing me that you're able to manage that. So see, I'm putting it on the child. Now, there are times when your children are like, no, thanks, mom and dad. But I want you to consider where you're going, not just in this one argument or this one behavior or this one character defect, or not defect, but this character issue that needs to be, worked on. Keep the relationship in mind. Many families absolutely torn apart during the teen years at the hand of unbending rules. These are the rules. This is how our family does it. That's it. No more, no questions. We're not talking about it anymore. I've told you a million times, this is just how we do it. I encourage you to consider, what if we tried it a different way? What if we step back and we listen to why they feel so irritated by it? If you have a strong-minded, some people call strong-willed child, I call him a strong-minded child. That's a leader in the making. They're willing to go as close or over that line. If they think going over that line, the consequences aren't going to be that bad, they're going to go over that line. And but this is what they need to know, that mom and dad are there. They're not budging. They're not going anywhere. They're still going to love them. They're not going to be run over. That's for sure. You're not going to run over them. You're not going to lie to them. You're not going to sneak out. You know, unfortunately, some kids do that. You're not going to establish social media platforms that we have not given you permission. You're not going to talk to XYZ people that we don't know about. There is that time and place where you just have to say, I know you may not like this, and it's not going to be pleasant. But see, I will one day stand before the Lord, and I will give an account for what I say and what I do and how I raise you. Please don't make me have to stand before the Lord and say I didn't do my job, and they just stop. What? And I will, and those literally are the words I tell my kids. I mean, because we'll talk about, you know, what I did, why I did certain things. Some things are not, you know, they're not a right or wrong. They're just a personal preference, like how you want your towels folded, or if you want underwear folded or beds made. But reminding them that my job is to bring on glory to the Lord. God gave me you. You are a treasure. You are a gift from the Lord. And as God gave you to me to be your parent, He has told me that I am to teach and train you in the way you should go. And that's my job. And now here's the deal, sweetheart. Your job is to honor your father and mother in all things. And what happens when you do that? It will be well with you. And sweetie, you want it to be well with you, don't you? Not very often they'll say, no, I want to self-destruct. A lot of times they don't even realize it, because strong-minded children want what they want. If you can help them channel that wanter to wanting what God wants, to wanting to submit to their parents, to want to listen to their parents, then that's a power that they have, and they will listen to you and they will trust you, because they know you're not trying to control them. You're just trying to help them get to where they need to be. Because oftentimes what you say to a teenager, they view as control. And what your teen says back to you, you view as rebellion. And now you're just into this conflict with fighting. No matter what you say, they're going to resist. No matter what they say, you're going to think they're just making excuses. And I'm saying, no, there's a better way than doing it that way. It's knowing your child, knowing how God has wired your child, and then helping them realize, no, I'm on your side. I'm trying to help you. We're not going to go do sleepovers. I'm sorry. That's just not what our family does. I know some of your best friends do that, and I think that's fine and wonderful, but that's not what we do. But mom, you know what, sweetie, here's what I'd like for you to do. I want you to pray about it. And I want you to ask the Lord to change Dad and I's heart, if you're married, to change our heart. And if it's, and I'm going to pray about it too. And this I promise you, God will work in my heart. It doesn't mean you're going to pray and God's going to make me say, okay, sleepovers are fine if that's one of your family constructs. But it is going to make them realize, one, they need to pray, because God cares about all things, that you are listening to them, that you are considering what they're asking for, and that you are praying about it as well. They see the dynamics of a team working together, listening, considering, talking, and then making a decision. You know, I've really thought about it, but we're just not there, sweetie. And I'll be happy to take you, and you can stay till midnight, and I'll come and get you. That's what we can do. How about that? But mom, everybody's going to make fun of me. I do understand that that might happen. You could just tell them, make me the bad guy. It's fine. Just tell them your parents just said no, that you can only stay till a minute, or tell them that you have to get up in the morning because dad's taking you fishing, or mom's got a big day planned for you and she wants to make sure that I get some sleep tonight because I have a lot going on, and then plan something for the next day so that it is true. Um, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It sounds like you're coaching them into the responsibility. You're coaching them into maturity and to be able to handle the things that they'll need to be able to handle on their own later in life. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
What I have learned, I've worked with teenagers for about 25 years, and what I have learned is our kids want to talk to us. I've done several podcasts on my Equipped to Be podcast, and I had this woman. She goes in and she speaks to middle schooler and high schoolers um, in the public school system and all over. But we started comparing notes one time, and we were saying, your kids want to talk to you. And parents will say, but mine doesn't. I can't get more than one word out of them. And that can be irritating and frustrating. But this is where we have to step back as a parent and ask ourselves, why? Why? And we have to give them permission to say what's going on. And sometimes they'll say, this is what the kids will say is, oh, my parents are just going to get mad and ground me for a week. They're going to take my phone away. They're never going to let me talk to this friend again, or I'm never going to be able to go to a movie again. Or, of course, they normally exaggerate it. My mom's going to get mad and yell at me, and she's going to give me extra chores. This is the stuff teenagers will say. But when you press them, they'll say, I don't want to let my mom down. I don't want to let my dad down. I don't want my parents to feel disappointed in me, that maybe they did something or they didn't do something. And those are real and valid. But when you give when you give kids your permission, give them permission to tell you kind of those things without overreacting, um, then they know they can open up and share more with you. So it's a beautiful way. It is time consuming. It's much easier to fix a problem and tell them what to do, and here's the rules of the house. But when I said keep your relationship in the top of mind always, because there's going to be that time when you turn the tassel. And for you, you've got this 12-year-old, uh, you have 6 years, right? 6 years. That means 12 years are over. You've
Yeah.
got 1/3 left. When you start thinking of it that way, your perspective starts to change. You start thinking, oh my gosh, I got to get all this in before. And I'm not just talking about subjects. I'm talking about character. I got to get this character developed in this area, or I've got to work on this
Yes, pack
subject.
it in there.
Yeah, I got to cram it all in there. How are they ever going to learn to, get a job or all of that? When we start to realize we're going to turn the tassel, I always encourage parents to do this, and that is, what do you want those relationships to look like after you've turned the tassel? Do you want them to turn around and say, see ya, thanks for all that stuff, but I didn't buy any of it. I don't agree with your family values. I don't know that stuff about God, thanks, but no, I just don't buy it. Um, the stuff you were trying to tell me about doing it this way and doing it that way, nah. But thanks, mom and dad, for the upbringing. Thanks for homeschooling me. Or, you know what? My childhood was terrible. I can't wait to get out of here. When we start to clearly define what we want in the relationships with our kids, what we want in the relationships between the sibling relationships to look like, we parent differently. And so I tell parents to get a piece of paper out, use a journal, and write down, what do you want? What do you want those relationships to look like? Do you want them to call you on Thanksgiving and say, hey, mom, what time is Thanksgiving? I want to make sure I get off from work. Or, mom, I want to make sure I've got 2 other things I've got to do that day, but I don't want to miss it. Or, mom, what can I bring for Thanksgiving? As opposed to, sweetie, you are coming for Thanksgiving, aren't you? Well, I don't know, mom, I'm kind of busy. No, sweetie, you do have parents, and I think you could come home. Who wants this? I wanted this. I wanted my kids to call me and say, when are we having Thanksgiving dinner? When
Mm-hmm.
are we celebrating Christmas? When are we going to get together and have game night or whatever your family does? If what you were writing down matters in 5 years, or in your case, 6 years or 2 years, if that matters, then you have to back it up and start parenting that way now. Focus on that relationship. Focus on keeping their heart. Don't buy the world telling you that we got it.
Oh, looks like I lost Connie again. Let's see if she pops back on. If you guys have any questions for her, just let us know. All right. You're
So,
fine.
yeah, I just, this is probably a fun one because we actually are deep diving, not just giving, 30,000-foot elevation. I'll just wrap this one thought up and just say, when you focus on having a relationship, you maximize your influence. When you have influence, you can keep their heart and they want to listen to you. If you sacrifice the relationship at the rules or the limits or
Mm-hmm.
the boundaries or keeping everybody in their place, then what you end up with is a child who might comply on the outside, but on the inside, they're not with you and they're not listening to you. And that means they're vulnerable to the teachings of other people and the influences of others who are more than willing to come alongside and tell them what horrible parents they have and that they shouldn't listen to them. And I've seen it happen so many times. And I'm just saying, parents, your kids are listening to somebody. Make it you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate it so much. It was really helpful for me. Can you, before we wrap it up here, can you just give us one more time your book and your website so people know where to find more information from you, your podcast?
Absolutely. So it's Parenting Beyond the Rules, Raising Teens with Confidence and Joy. And there's a reason there's paintbrushes there. 5 kids, 5 colors. Your child is a masterpiece in the making, and they are not paint by numbers, and they are an original. So you want to parent the child you have, not the one you wish you had.
Hmm.
You can find me at conniealbers.com. I speak all over the country, and I'm also on Facebook, conniealbers.author, on Instagram, and all the other social, well, not TikTok, but the other platforms. And you can come. I have a bonus chapter of my book on my website if you want to subscribe to my email list. And I would love to connect with you. And I really pray that this has been a blessing to you, especially as you're walking through such uncertain times. And just remember that in this season of disruption, there's always innovation. Your child might solve a problem that never existed until now. So look for areas of disruption to lead your family to innovation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
guys,
Bye.
everybody, make sure you go check out all of her sessions in the conference because we have several of them and they're very good. Thank you very much. Bye.